Greetings, friends. Have you ever had one of those days, weeks, when it seems like you're having problem after problem, challenge after challenge, and it's like, would it ever stop? Well, we're having one of those weeks.
Yeah.
Actually, the past 2 weeks have kind of been like that, but really the past week or so has been a little interesting.
Nothing overly hugely bad, but enough to just make things a lot harder.
Just a couple days ago, we had the unusual freeze and frost that we were dealing with, where we were up like 4 o'clock, 3 a.m., getting started to go outside at 4 a.m. and then trying to keep all of our plants alive because we know about the solar minimum and all the things and seeing some of the patterns that we're seeing, but it was like we just had a day of 85 degrees and then now we're having a night
28
where the lows are in the 20s and our stuff is freezing. It's like, so
it's very frustrating.
have to deal with that. Let's see here, what else? Oh yeah, in the garden, we're like a month later than last year with starting up our CSA, just because things are just so far off, and it's just
because of all the rain in early spring that put us way off behind in planting or getting anything, the bed prepped and all that. So we're running a month behind there.
And then add to that in the garden, I'm trying to get my irrigation line set up, and then this irrigation has been set up before and we've been using perfectly fine previously, and then I have a number of different breaks in the lines, and I'm having to go around and fix those breaks on top of being behind. And on top of that, ducks got in the garden and started eating up some of the lettuce that we had just transplanted. So it's like, what next? Oh, and speaking of ducks, we've had duck eggs in our incubator that we have been working on hatching, and they've been getting really close to the point of hatching. And then we started having some come out of the eggs, and then they didn't come all the way out and they just died. And I'm like, what is happening? This is just unusual that this percentage of them are just dying and not even getting out of the egg. And then I was like, man, and I should have prayed about it before I did, but it was like, it hit me. It was like, you need to check the accuracy of the temperature, the thermometer in your incubator, because a couple of days ago the power had went out and that caused the incubator power to go out. So I waited, and then finally was like, all right, let's bring another thermometer in the incubator and check the accuracy of that thermometer. And you know what? It was at least 5 degrees off, and I'm like, no wonder they're dying. The temperature's not right. So it's like,
So it's all these things that are just adding up.
Oh yeah, and the mailbox. We've been getting a number of packages lately, and whoever delivers our mail sometimes, they jam these big boxes into our mailbox, and it's like, how do you get a box like this and a hole like this? And he does it. They do it. I actually don't know if it's man or a woman, but they do it. And we've been wondering and been afraid for quite some time that they were just gonna tear up our mailbox. Well, it happened. Tore up our mailbox.
My mom and dad came down and they're like, I think you need a new mailbox, and brought the whole thing to us with the package stuffed inside, because when they tried to pull it out, it broke off.
Well, finally was able to wiggle and muscle the package out of the mailbox and go to the hardware store and get the things that I needed to fix the mailbox. And then that was a challenge because the screws were rusted on the plate that was holding the mailbox to the post, and so I was working on that. So finally got that all together, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go heavy duty. I'm gonna add some extra screws, some extra wood, and make this thing strong. So I did that, and we got the mailbox set up. So I still had to make some changes on it because I made it the wood a little bit too long to where the door of the mailbox doesn't open completely. So it's like, oh.
But I think it could be a positive, because they definitely can't get a box in there now. Just the letters in the mail.
It just opens just up just enough for them to slide the paper mail in there, but he can't put a big box in there anymore. So that's that. And then now we're back to the warm temperatures again in the mid and upper 80s, and it's been a little hot in here. And recently, this last year, we got our mini split system set up in here. However, we weren't able to set up the condensation lines for our AC. We haven't been able to do that yet, so we've been wanting to do that, and we're planning to do that here real soon because we didn't need it for the heat, but we needed it for the cooling. There was this one day I was like, man, it's pretty hot in here. I'm just gonna at least turn on this one right here because the hose can run down. I can just let the condensation
drain into a bucket.
Drain right into a bucket. And then the other one in the bedroom, I was like, we'll just turn the fan on there just to get some air circulating. And I was watching it, and it was working, and it was cooling down. And then we had some visitors came, and I was like, oh, I'll just step outside and hang out and talk with them for a few minutes because things are running fine. But then I come back inside to the other room where the mini split is, that the fan was supposed to be on, not the AC. The AC was supposed to be right here. It wasn't dripping from here. For some weird reason, it was dripping in the other one, and it was dripping right on our laptop computer
where I edit all of our videos.
And I was like, no, it's not supposed to be dripping here. What is happening right now? Oh man. So I flipped it over, trying to dry it out and letting the fan run. I was like, I think it's gonna be okay. And then about an hour after that, I turned it back over, and I was like, uh-oh, it won't come on.
No, it wouldn't turn off.
It wouldn't come. The screen would not.
Black.
The screen wouldn't come on. It had the little red button. I was like, oh no, what are we gonna do? I was like, what in the world? This should not be happening.
So it was just another one of those things.
So we ended up taking our computer to a repair place, and thankfully they're gonna be able to get it repaired. But it was like, whoa. But in the meantime, we were like, we just got to do something. So we ended up getting you a new computer, which wasn't necessarily planned in the budget, but we ended up getting a new computer for you.
But we did need 2 computers because the one that we've been using, that I used to edit on, and that got passed to Mike for him to use, was over 10 years old, and it was starting to slow down and mess up. So we needed another one anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully the waterlogged computer is going to be totally fine, and then I have another computer to edit on now.
Yeah.
So we have 2 that I can edit on.
And does this ever happen to you guys? It's like you're going through some negative things, and then out of nowhere, it just seems like negative people and negative messages and comments just come out of nowhere. It's like negative attracts negative. It's just interesting. And then you add to all that the craziness that's going on in the world. It can just be like pretty overwhelming, pretty depressing, pretty discouraging if you let it.
Yeah, and you have to work really hard not to let it get to you, because whenever he told me, oh, water was dripping all over your computer, I'm like,
you ready to beat me?
Great! No, I didn't even get mad. I'm like, you know what? God's got this. I'm not gonna worry about it. God's gonna take care of us. And there's no use in getting mad, because I know he felt terrible, because the AC was turned on for this one in here, and it was just the fan for the one in the bedroom. But what I'm thinking is that when it got hooked up, some lines got crossed, and so whenever he turned it on in here, it was actually sending the cooled air to the other one. So, you know, we live and we learn, and we'll get all that set up and taken care of. There's no use in getting all mad about it.
That's right. One of the things that we try to teach, promote in our family is accidents happen, and not to get upset about somebody if they make an accident, because accidents happen. We all have accidents and make mistakes that we're not intending to make.
No, you didn't intentionally go pour a cup of water on the computer, because that wouldn't be good for anybody.
No, I did not. And when you've been through tough things in the past, which we have in years past, you try to also tap into the things that you learned during those previous tough lessons, and hopefully that we built character during those tough times, and then you just tap into all that help propel you through the different challenges that you face at the present time.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, that helps to realize that, because we faced some tough stuff, like having been a period of just very low income, as well as me having to work 2 jobs on top of trying to start this homestead. And it was a really tough time when you had the miscarriage and before Micah, and that was really tough. And those kind of things can shake you up, and you can be in a really bad spot, but you can't let it keep you down.
No, you can't. And going through all that, you also have to trust in God. Like, you know, we can't do it all. We're doing everything that we can do, and if you're doing everything that you can do, then God's got the rest. So,
and those are some of the things that helps us out, is realizing that God has a plan, and that we need to focus on doing what we can do, and that's all we can do, and try to maintain a positive mind throughout that.
And that's hard to do.
It sure is.
And like, especially after we lost the baby, I was in a bad place for a long time.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll admit that freely, because that's just the truth. But going through all of that, and you know, not having money to do anything, or to even start our homestead, and if you feel like everything that you're doing is not working, and years down the road is whenever you see it pay off. Like, you were working, and God saw the work that you were putting in. God saw the work that we were putting in, and it might not have paid off right then, but it's paying off now. And we had this discussion with the kids the other night, is that you have to work, and if you don't work, you don't get the payoff at the end. Even if you're not seeing it right away, you'll see it later on. So just put the work in.
It's similar to like gardening. When you plant, you prep that garden bed, that soil, and you plant that seed, you're not getting the benefits of it right away. It's later on down the road that you get the results and the benefits from it, of pressing through all the different things you have to press through to get that harvest. So those are some of the things that we keep in mind, and try to stay positive, because there are a lot of positive things. Despite all these challenges that we're dealing with, there are some positive things. For example, like right now with the high tunnel that we've had, we were able to save, we were blessed with the ability to be able to save all the different plants that were in there. We didn't lose not one single tomato. We didn't lose not one cucumber plant, I don't believe. And the squash that I thought that we lost is coming back. Also, we have some corn that is sprouting. And in our greenhouse, I just talked about tomatoes. In the greenhouse, our tomatoes are flowering now, and we didn't have any damage at all in there. All that stuff is fine. So those are some pretty exciting things to kind of think about.
And my flowers are sprouting.
So
my flower garden is sprouting.
That's right. You saved a number of your plants in the garden, in your garden that we recently built. So
all the ones that were given to me, they were saved. Even the basil. Basil hates cold weather, and that was saved with just a little mason jar on top.
Yeah. So trying to focus on the positive things despite all the challenges that we face, and even in our world, in our country. We know that any country that rejects the principles and rejects God is going to reap the consequences for doing so, and that's what we believe, and we understand, and have tried to put it to the test, as we encourage you guys to do, to test and prove things. Whatever you believe for yourself, you have to do that. We each have to do that. But and then also understanding, we believe that the United States is a part of the descendant of Israel and nations of Israel, and that they're prophesied and foretold to have problems during the last time. So it's interesting to see that, as sad as it is, but understand that that's the reality of the matter as well. And then also in our own personal life, when we are dealing with challenges, not to just dismiss them and try to be super positive to the point where we're ignoring that we could possibly need to make some changes. We try to do that. I'll try to pray and examine myself. All right, and ask God, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do differently? What do I need to learn in this situation? Because I want to learn it. I want to make the changes. Please help me to make the changes. Because definitely want to learn in every situation that we're in, and make progress. And because
super important to be growing all the time, because if you're not growing, you're stagnant. What happens to a plant that doesn't grow in your garden? you just rip that sucker out because it's not producing and it's just taking up space.
Yep.
So you have to make sure that you are continually growing yourself in all areas.
That's exactly right. And with all that, understanding that we're also to go through trials and tests to build our character and to learn lessons. And not necessarily meaning that we're doing something wrong, but sometimes we are, but sometimes just to help us to grow. Just like we prune our tomato plants or our fruit trees to help them to grow more. It's not that they did anything wrong. It's that we need to prune them to help them to grow and produce more.
And you have to get out of that comfort zone, like, and be pushed. Your boundaries need to be pushed a little bit, because we would never grow if we didn't have that. So, you know, I believe God pushes us out, just like we do our kids, you know, trying new things. We'll try it. Well, I don't want to. Well, just do it and see if you like it. And, you know, you can do this. I know you have the ability. So, you know, make it a daily thing to do something a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, whether you're facing with challenging situations or not, push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yep, that's right.
So despite the challenges that we have, we do ask that you guys pray for us in these challenges, that we get through them and we move on and continue to stay positive and help you guys to stay positive as well, because we've got things to do. That's another thing. Keep in mind, I try to keep in mind that I have a purpose that I'm going to accomplish here with God's help. So whatever's going on, I got a purpose. You got a purpose. Follow your purpose. Make it happen. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Move forward.
Bye, guys.